Jeff Kerr's appearance on the Sports Bash is brought to you by the expert solar team of New Jersey. EMT Solar and Roofing and Solar Guardians. Start your solar journey today by learning more and visiting espnsolar.com. It's a happy hour Friday. It's the first happy hour Friday with football on Sunday, and Jeff Kerr is here to kind of break it down with us. We'll get some thoughts from him on this Eagles and Falcons game. But first, let's start, Jeff, with what we saw last night. We had the Cowboys go toe-to-toe with the defending champs. Were you surprised at the way the Cowboys, hung in that game? A lot of people thought the Bucs would blow them out.
Well, it seemed like this is why I don't bet, because someone asked me to give them betting advice, and I said, well, I don't bet, but I was like, yeah, I take the under. No. So that didn't work. The over was already through three quarters. I said Tampa would cover. They did not cover. So, again, I don't – this is why I don't bet for these reasons. I'm usually wrong. But overall, I was kind of surprised Dallas was able to go toe-to-toe with this team. But even when Mike McCarthy got conservative and decided to kick a field goal with Greg Zuerlein and give Tom Brady a minute, 26 seconds left, I'm like, Tampa's going to win. He's going to find a way to get him a field goal, and that's what happened. I mean, Dallas plays a great game. I think they're going to be a team that, they certainly made a statement in the NFC East that Dak Prescott's going to be really good. Their offense is going to be really good. I know Michael Gallup's going to be out a month, but they're still going to be in there. That's going to be a tough challenge week 3 for the Eagles, but overall it's, this is a loss Dallas shouldn't have had.
Well,
they should have won this game.
Yeah, and La'el Collins suspended too. He's going to miss 5 games. That means he won't be ready for the Eagles game either. I said the same thing. Like, Dallas should have won the game. They had 4 turnovers and still were in that game somehow. I thought McCarthy had a terrible night last night.
He's a terrible coach. I don't know what else to say about it. Mike, you hit the nail on the head. He's a terrible night, terrible coach. I just don't like him. I think Kellen Moore should have probably gotten the Cowboys head coaching job, because that guy is a really good offensive play caller. What he did to Bruce Arians last night kept that defense on its heels, doing the short passes, the screens. Tampa Bay, who's a really good defensive team, did not tackle well last night, and they lost the turnover battle by 3. So, again, it's when you look back at it, you're like, Dallas only scored 29 points, but hey, those are the breaks.
Those are the breaks. All right, let's go to Sunday, and the Eagles take on the Falcons. There's so much in this one. We got good news just a little while ago. Nick Sirianni said Brandon Brooks was going to go, so that's the good news. Let's talk a little bit about the offensive line with Brooks in it, because if Brooks doesn't play, it's a big game changer at playing Nate Herbig there than it is Brandon Brooks.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is, because I was saying to myself, I'm like, who would the Eagles put there? And then I'm like, oh, Nate Herbig, that's right. So, you kind of forget about it. I mean, he's a good backup. He can start. I think maybe down the line he will start for this team, but there is a big difference between Nate Herbig and Brandon Brooks. And, you want that right side of the offensive line intact in week 1. Jason Kelce, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, to go against the Falcons pass rush that their team leader was Deion Jones in sacks last year. He only had 4. That's not good. So this Eagles offensive line should dominate Atlanta up front. And I know Atlanta's switching to a 3-4 with Dean Pease now coming out of retirement as defensive coordinator, but the Eagles should really manhandle this team up front.
I agree with you. We had Baldy on Friday's show right before you, and I think we talked about this, or Wednesday before you, and he said, they should steamroll the Eagles should steamroll them, and he's talking about their offensive front, and it's because they've got a really good offensive line. Falcons do not have a great defensive front, so does Nick Sirianni have it in it? We'll find out to turn around and hand that ball off.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the Eagles, they can't get pass happy. I mean, I know the NFL's a passing league now, but you got Miles Sanders, you got Kenny Gainwell, you got Boston Scott. Use those 3 to your advantage. If you want to use them in the passing game, go right ahead. But the Eagles, Ballinger's right. The Eagles should just be able to just play old school football, and Miles Sanders should be able to get 5 yards per carry easily and break up a big run. I think that's how you got to win this game. You got to control the time of possession. You got to keep Matt Ryan and that Falcons offense off the field.
All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, 97.3 ESPN, of course, covering the Eagles this year. Another thing in this game that I find interesting is, and it's funny because the conversation you had with Tony Romo, he said, what do you think about their line? And you said, I think they're one of the best in football. I said, see, I agree with you. Well, I would say in this conversation with you, Jeff Kerr, I would say the Falcons have one of the lousiest offensive lines in football, which means that matchup with the Eagles could be in the Eagles' favorite. Graham, Fletcher, Javon, Sweat, Barnett, Kerrigan. you could see some activity up front in the backfield of the Falcons.
Yeah, and look, I totally understand why people would pick the Falcons, but I'm thinking to myself, how can you pick that? Like, I like to pick games in the trenches, and I usually have a pretty good track record of this. Eagles dominate them on the offensive line, and they're going to dominate them on the defensive line. Like, the Falcons have a good offensive line. I shouldn't say good. I'm being generous here. I should say they have good players on the offensive line, or they used high draft picks, but they don't have a good cohesive unit on the offensive line. Like Chris Lindstrom, again, I liked him as a first-round pick, but he's kind of been disappointing. This whole unit has kind of been disappointing. They just don't seem to mesh. And really, the only reason they don't give up as many sacks as they should is because Matt Ryan knows how to get rid of the football. He gets rid of it pretty quick. But, and that's going to be the one thing that beats the Eagles Sunday. It's going to be Kyle Pitts. It's going to be Calvin Ridley. It's going to be Russell Gage. It's going to be Matt Ryan. It's not going to be Mike Davis. It's not going to be the Falcons offensive line. It certainly isn't going to be the Falcons defense. It's going to be those four players. And the Eagles pass rush has to get the Matt Ryan. They just have to flush him out of the pocket and just don't allow big plays to happen. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept.
Yeah, get to Matt Ryan, get him off his spot. They have an average offensive line. You got to get pressure early in that game. No turnovers from Hurts. I think that's another big one. You can't have Hurts come out and do what Carson Wentz did last year, which was put you behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, and you know what, Mike? That was so frustrating about Week 1 last year. The Eagles were up 17-3, and everything just looked great. Okay, they're back from their 2019 form. That you felt like you got December 2019 Carson Wentz. No, it was 17-3. He looked great, and then he threw that pick six, and that was the end of it. I don't think that's going to get Jalen Hurts. I really don't. So I think that's really going to help this football team going forward. You're right. Jalen Hurts cannot fumble the football.
Nope, you're right about that. Don't give up the big play. You kind of hit on that as well. They need balance on the offensive side of the ball, too. I think it's going to be interesting. I say balance, not because I'm an old head. It's because that's where the Eagles' strength on the line is. I want to see that line win this game for the Eagles. We've been talking about it almost all offseason. If the Eagles are going to have any success this year, it's because of that offensive line. Utilize them against a lousy Atlanta team. This team won 4 stinking games last year, Jeff. Atlanta did. So you would think if Philadelphia's going to win one, this is one. And if you can get this one, it gives you – look, they play San Francisco next week, a team that they beat last year, mind you. I know San Francisco's a lot different and a lot better, but being 1-0 in that game would be a lot different than being 0-1. So the factor for me that I want to hear you kind of pontificate on is the tight end guys, the Ertz, Goddard, and how they factor into this game on Sunday.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of Zach Ertz Sunday. I think you can – and look, the Falcons have a good cover. Look, they do have good coverage linebackers. I will say that. So I feel like those two are going to play a factor, if you will, Mike. But I think Zach Ertz really has an opportunity with his route running to basically get open. He'll be open in the middle of the field. Jalen Hurts has to hit him. And Dallas Goedert, I think sometimes you can keep him down as an extra blocker. But against this defensive line and this front seven, you really don't have to. You can line up in a lot of 12 personnel and basically use these two to your advantage. So I kind of like where the Eagles are headed here, with that matchup. But overall, Mike, the guy I got to watch is Devonta Smith. I mean, the Falcons revamped their secondary completely. A.J. Terrell, their first-round pick from a couple years ago, is really the only one back. So they got to test this early and they got to test this often. And I don't think the Falcons have anybody in the secondary that can cover Zach Ertz. And I think Devonta Smith and A.J. Terrell are going to match up. And if the Eagles can get the short passes going, advantage Smith.
Yep, I think one thing to watch, too, on the flip side is what they do with Kyle Pitts. How do they utilize him? What they do with him? Is he moving all over the place? Because I don't know if the Eagles have a guy on defense. With Rodney McLeod out, we didn't mention that. He is out for the game on Sunday. With Rodney McLeod officially out, and that's a matchup that I'm a little concerned about.
Yeah, I am too. With no Rodney McLeod, I'm like, okay, so who's going to cover Kyle Pitts? Because I thought he would be the best option. This is what I'm concerned over the whole thing. Who's going to do this? Now, I think it's going to be Anthony Harris. I wrote that in my preview. But is it going to be Anthony Harris? Could it be Marcus Epps, who doesn't do a terrible job at that? So I'm looking at it as maybe the Eagles are going to have to mix and match here. Who's going to stop Kyle Pitts? I'm going to tell you this, Mike. That guy has an incredible wingspan. I think he's going to be that guy. He's going to come out there. He's going to have 5 catches for about 80 yards and a touchdown. It's just the way Kyle Pitts is. He's a really good football player. He's going to be a problem for this Eagles team. And this is why they're really going to miss Rodney McLeod. They may have to put like a Darius Slay type on him just to contain him.
Well, and if you put Slay on him, who's on Ridley?
Exactly. Who covers Calvin Ridley? That's a problem. Is it Steve Nelson again? I don't think you should put a cornerback on him, but you're going to have to put someone on him. Go ahead.
No, like if I look at the Falcons and I say 3 guys worry me, it's Pitts, Ridley, and then the third guy is who? That's the thing with this team. Defensively, I don't know if they have a guy that I have to game plan for. I mean, is there a guy on defense that you're like, I have to game plan for that guy? Not really. But on offense, they do have a couple guys that concern you. Their line, though, could be the great equalizer because their line stinks.
Yeah, it does. It stinks, and we got to be nice about it. And look, I try to say they have good players, but they're not a good unit. I mean, the Falcons have invested a lot in that offense.
You have to be nice about it. You have to talk to the people nationally. I don't have to be nice about it. Their line stinks.
I mean, you're not wrong, Mike. I mean, if I had to rank all 32 offensive lines, the Falcons are near the bottom.
I would say like 24, 25, 26. They're just not a good offensive line. Matthews is solid. Other than that, they have about 2.5 good offensive linemen. So the Eagles can get pressure up the middle and get to that's the story of the game to me. Can they get pressure up the middle in Ryan's face, get him, because if they can make him, he might not get sacked. If he has to get the ball out, that neutralizes what Ridley does really well. Now, we don't know how Pitts does. We don't know what Pitts' game's going to be in the NFL, but he's not a deep threat.
No, he's not. But he's going to be a guy that's going to move the chains for them. He's excellent after the catch. Like, he runs routes really, really well, but it's after the catch. Like, you have to tackle him as soon as he catches the football, or he's just going to make you pay. Again, I'm really scared with Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts because those two are game changers. And remember 2 years ago, Mike, the Eagles contained this offense really well. They dominated this offensive line. And what happened? 4th down, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones touchdown. Thank God Julio Jones ain't on this team anymore.
Oh, you got that right. So Ridley's just the one guy. Davis, as you mentioned, in the running back. All right, Jeff Kerr, your pick for the game. We've got picks all day today. Sal Palantonio, 24-16 Eagles. Andrew DeCecco, 24-20 Eagles. Pete Thompson, 27-13 Eagles. Casey Joyner likes the Falcons to cover. And you are?
27-23 Eagles.
27-23 Eagles. That's Jeff Kerr's pick here on the Sports Bash Live on a Friday. Happy Hour Friday. Jeff Kerr likes the Eagles 27-23. So it looks like the Eagles, a lot of people like them to win this game. The first one out of the gates. Look, if this Atlanta team's 4-win team, if you don't beat Atlanta, they got a stretch of games coming up. Philadelphia, San Francisco, Dallas, Tampa Bay. You could be getting into a rough patch here if you don't win this first one. It's imperative for them to get this one.
With these first 6, you have to win this game. I hate to use must-win game week 1. This is a must-win game. This is not Kansas City, Cleveland here where, the loser's going to be all right. No, you have to.
Well, after that, the schedule, because once you get past Kansas City, Carolina, Tampa Bay's good, obviously, but then Vegas, Detroit, L.A., the Chargers, Denver, the Saints, the Giants, the Jets. There's a lot of winnable games late in the year, so you got to keep yourself around 500 to get to that back half stretch. So if you're going to get to 500, this is a game you have to have, Jeff Kerr. All right.
Yeah.
Jeff Kerr, what's your weekend? What's your weekend setup? What's your weekend plan?
So
what games are you covering?
So Saturday, I get away from it. I get to go up to Penn State Saturday. That's my how can I go? My respite, if you will. My respite from the fray.
Sure.
So, but then Sunday, I got Eagles Falcons, and then I got Chiefs Browns. So it's going to be
they gave you the Chiefs Browns game.
Yeah.
What are you, the high man on the list?
I sometimes get the good 4:00 games.
Okay.
I will say that. But they know I'm in love with Patrick Mahomes, and I kind of like the Browns story last year, and it's going to be fun to watch those teams on Sunday. It's funny, Mike. My Twitter's been blowing up over 2 things. For saying that the Eagles, beating Tom Brady as best may be one of the most impressive feats in NFL history, and every time I put out a crazy stat about Patrick Mahomes, told me about his almost touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I'm like, wow, the guy lost 1 Super Bowl. He's 25 years old. He's done more in his life than you ever will.
Yeah, well, the Mahomes thing's interesting, and I like Mahomes. I talked about this the other day, though. Rodgers won and got to a Super Bowl early and hasn't done it again. It's not a rite of passage that Mahomes is going to just keep, because it feels like every year we're just going to say they're the favorite, they're the favorite, they're the favorite. I wonder if he's going to go down the Brady road, or is he going to be the Aaron Rodgers of this time frame?
When I was talking to Tony Romo about this is why we think he has that opportunity to go to Brady road. Because salary cap hasn't affected the Chiefs yet, and somehow the Chiefs find ways to get better. Like the Packers, remember with Brett Favre early on, they were really good, but then salary cap in, they couldn't keep everybody. The Chiefs are finding ways to keep their guys around. Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu got to get signed, obviously, but Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the rookie contract. They revamped the offensive line. I mean, Mahomes just takes, signed the massive contract, but then he restructures it to help him with the team. Andy Reid's a really good coach. Brett Veach is a really good GM. So that's why I think he could take that road. And again, last year against Tampa was unfortunate, but I don't think it derails his career path, if you will. I still think they're going to be going to multiple Super Bowls.
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, will be back Monday to recap the Eagles-Falcons in Week 1 of the NFL. All right, Jeff, enjoy all the football, man.
Oh, I can't wait for this weekend, Mike. I was excited for last night, but Sunday is my Christmas. I love Week 1 of the NFL. It's one of those, I get sick of it by Monday Night Football, but
No.
Sunday 8 o'clock, I'll be ready to go.
All right, he'll be back on Monday. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Mike.